Yo, what up, guys? Margin here again with episode 2 of the Not Even Good podcast. This one's going to be surrounding Q&As, so question and answers. Had a lot of people, had some really awesome feedback around my first one, which I'm eternally grateful for. Thank you guys for tuning in, even giving it a like, giving it a listen, and even giving me feedback on it. Man, it's surreal and a bit weird for me, if I'm being honest, in terms of people actually wanting to hear what I got to say. And yeah, I think it's awesome. So yeah, thank you guys. I'm just going to move on to the questions that I've got at the moment. I got a lot of people, whether it was Twitter, YouTube, or direct message me, asking me stuff about the podcast and some of the things that I've touched base on, which I want to talk about. So bear with me as I go along the list. The first thing was, I'm not going to say names because I don't want to embarrass anyone or like that, but the first thing I wanted to touch on is my name. Where did I get the name Boss from? So, and thanks for the question again. I'm named after my father. My father's name is Edward Sandy Percy. I then in turn inherited that name from my father. But ever since I can remember, and ever since I can, my thoughts go back, no one has ever called me Edward, or referred to me as Edward. The name Boss. The name Boss actually derived from the name Bossy. That's what my family, my parents, gave me when I was a baby, born. They used to call me Bossy, and then obviously it kind of shortened to the Boss, which most people call me by that name today. So, and where it came from, I think there's been many stories that my parents have told me. How did I get that name? One of them was the Big Boss Man. As a kid, I was quite a chubby, full-rounded kid, as such. So, and I kind of resembled the wrestler Boss Man. Another one was when I was a baby, I was a bit grumpy little prick, like a boss. But I think, personally, where it came from was my grandma used to call my grandfather Boss, because he was the boss of the house and of the family. So I probably think that's probably where I got my name from my grandfather. Like I said, I've never ever been referred to from people that I love and the people that call me family and whatnot as Edward. All my family call me Boss. It's a bit weird, and people think, we'll call him Boss just to piss him off. I don't really give a fuck. I mean, we'll call him Edward just to piss him off. I don't really give a shit. It doesn't mean anything to me, but don't be surprised if I don't respond to it, because it's obviously not a name that I'm accustomed to hearing or to referring to or to answer to. There's only one or two people that actually ever called me Edward. These are my, I would say, how do you put it, my surrogate grandparents. So when my dad was kicked out of Samoa for not being so long story short, my father was kicked out of Samoa because his father before him wanted him to become a priest. So my father wasn't about that life, and my grandfather wasn't happy about him, so he shipped him over to New Zealand to get out of Samoa. And when my father landed in Samoa, he landed in Petone, and there was a couple by the name of Ted and June Linton. These two kind-hearted white folk took on my father, taught him the game of the timber industry, and pretty much was a surrogate father and mother to my father. And then again, when we were born, this beautiful couple would always send us money for Christmas, or send us gifts as if they were our grandparents, which I'm eternally grateful for. And they're still alive to this day. I think they're pushing about 80 now, and they reside in Auckland. They couldn't really stay in Petone for that long, so they reside in Auckland with their daughter. But yeah, they're very, very beautiful people. I owe them the world. So does my father. And they kind of, nurtured my father as a young boy to learn the timber industry, which pretty much helped my father create this empire that he has here in New Zealand. like I said, man, when my father came from New Zealand, he didn't have nothing when he came to New Zealand, and he's built this empire for myself and my siblings, with houses and property and whatnot. So, and that was all on the back of these two beautiful souls, Ted and June Linton. So, I'll be forever grateful for those guys. And like I said, those are the only two people that actually refer to me as Edward. Reason being is Ted's real name is Edward, and my father actually told Ed that I'm named after him, which is a bit of a lie. But my dad was a bit bots like that. He always used to tell fucking bullshit stories. Stories that weren't true, but that's because he thought the world of Ted. Yeah, that's where my name came from. Now, the name Majin actually derives from the cartoon series Dragon Ball Z. I think it was 2006. I started playing. I moved from Xbox to PS4, because PS4 was free to play in terms of online, and Xbox you have to pay a subscription fee. So when I did that, I moved from Xbox 360 to PS4. I started jamming with my cousin's clan, my cousin Parikora Lalanga. Started jamming with his crew, which was called the P-Town Crew, and they were synonymous for talking shit and playing Call of Duty and representing Poriro. And all their names were derived from Dragon Ball Z characters. They had everything from Yamcha to Piccolo. Any name in Dragon Ball Z, you name it, they've got it. Even characters I didn't even know anything about it, like Black, Beerus. So I was going, what the hell are these characters? But it was about 60 strong, our crew was. And fortunately enough, I was given the handle of Majin Buu, and I kind of stuck with that. So Majin has been my alias, my online alias, ever since then. So yeah, so I hope that explains kind of like the whole gist of where I get my names from, the Majin, the boss, what have you. Yeah, moving on to the next question, which was what motivated me to start a podcast. So me and my friends, me and my inner circle, I would like to say, we're speaking about doing kind of like a almost like a Taking the Piss podcast, which this will probably be. We'll probably develop into that, but I think I need to start creating content and start pushing out some kind of content, so people get to know me and people get to know what I'm all about, and actually be invested into what I'm pushing out. So my inner circle kind of spoke about it, we were thinking about it, and then I got a bit busy, and then what really pushed me is listening to the ICE Project, listening to people like Ari Savia, Lima Saponga, Timothy Delaghetto. What else podcast do I listen to? The Joe Rogan Project. Fuck, he's awesome. So yeah, people like that kind of motivated me to say, hey man, I want to give it a go. I think it's awesome. I think it's an awesome space to kind of view your viewpoints without any bias, or any kind of judgment. I mean, like I said, I don't really care what people think of me. I just kind of speak from the heart, and that kind of that's showing through what I push out in terms of content and whatnot. Yeah, man. Another question I got here was people that coming into podcasts. I mean, after I dropped the first episode, a lot of people kind of reached out and said, hey man, I want to be a part of it, I'm with it. I think it's awesome, so thank you very much, guys, again. So probably in the episodes to come, I'll have some guests on the podcast just to talk about everything in general, from life, everything, gaming, anything that they want to talk about. I'm all for it. Ideally, this would be a kind of like a gaming podcast, but it's kind of manifested into something bigger. And man, I don't mind. I mean, I think it's awesome. I did have a question about someone asking me what game I'm playing now. So I have been playing the Modern Warfare beta, the new one, that's due to release in October. It's primo, but right now the servers are kind of screwy. I'm hitting 141 ping, playing on North America servers, so kind of sucks at the moment. I was playing with a good friend of mine, Byron, and we're getting shat on because of the ping. that's one of the games I'm playing at the moment. And another one is it'll always be there, League of Legends. I've had oh man, I have this love-hate relationship with that game. I've been banned from one account once already, on my second account, so I'm on that T1 status, that Tyler 1 lol status. But yeah, man, those are probably the go-to at the moment. Fortnite, I can't really get my head around that game with the whole building and the old gunning situation. I mean, I like watching it. I enjoy people watching it, but in terms of playing it myself, I don't know about that. And Apex also is another game that I'm kind of dabbling in. So yeah, at the moment, super hyped for the COD release in October. Borderlands 3, I wasn't a fan of, if I'm being honest with you, from the start. And 2K20 is probably another game mode that I'm not really overly fussed about. But those are the games that are out at the moment that are making a big noise on the streaming community. But yeah. Another question. Some people wanted me to touch a little bit more on my Samoan upbringing. Well, my non-Samoan upbringing, if that makes sense. If you watch episode 1, I spoke on it about my father not really growing up the Samoan way in terms of speaking it, but very prevalent in the old discipline area. My whole family, well, sorry, scratch that. So the first time, no, it's probably not the first time, but that was probably the biggest hiding that I've ever seen personally. Like as a kid growing up in Porirua East, a lot of the kids, well, a lot of my siblings were punished very heavy-handed. I'm not afraid to admit that my father had a drinking problem. I think we all do to a certain extent, but he was quite bad. I mean, he was the main breadwinner, and he'll come home and get on the bottle, and then he used to be downstairs and then come upstairs and kind of rage out on us kids. I laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny at the time. But hey, it's one of those things that you grow from and get better, and kind of makes you the man that you are today. So I can remember, fuck man, we used to get hidings, crazy hidings when we were kids. Me and my brother, my sister got a fucking pretty big hiding that I can still remember to this day. I think I was would have been about something odd 4, maybe 5, and my sister actually ran away from home. And my brother, myself, my mother and my father went looking for her, and we found her up the road at a friend's house, a guy friend's house. And so my father went in with a machete, and I can remember him grabbing my sister by the hair and dragging her out of the house. Like I said, it's funny now, but it wasn't at the time, man. I think I was a bit traumatized from it all. Dragged her out of the house, chucked her in the car, we drove home, and then she got the beats of her life. Fuck, it was scary. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, my father was very heavy-handed. You knew about it. I mean, me myself, I wasn't the brightest kid in the world. Sorry, that was my phone. I used to do a lot of dumb shit when I was a kid, you know. For example, I was telling you this story, and my cousins and my family know about this, and they laugh about it to this day. I remember when I was young, I would have been, I don't know, 7, maybe 8. I was half asleep. I was asleep in the bed, half asleep, and my dad's, he was a bit of a handyman, man. He was real good with his hands, so he's trying to fix the toilet, replacing the toilet. And so in the midst of him changing a toilet, he took the toilet out, and you know, you got that little toilet plug hole thing, and it's there, and I walk into the bathroom, and I'm half asleep, I'm not awake yet, and I'm taking a piss, and I'm pissing into the oh man, this is funny. I'm half asleep, and I'm taking a piss in this hole, and my dad, I don't see my dad because I'm half asleep, and my dad's sitting there looking at me while I'm looking down, pissing into this hole, and I didn't think anything of it. But I got a hiding for that boy, and fuck, that was funny. And that's a story that stays with me for a long time, because a lot of my family kind of remember it, and it was kind of a funny time. Growing up, we did get a lot of hidings. I mean, my dad would use anything from the vacuum pole to the jug cord to the belt to pretty much anything he can get his hands on, a wooden spoon, spatula, cupboard door. I remember. Here's a fucked up thing about, especially fob parents or parents that come from abroad, and don't really understand the whole discipline thing. So I remember as a kid, I was playing in the field, the tall grass, because I got a field. There's a field behind my house that we used to play on as we were kids, and I was playing in the long grass. And I remember messing around with the next door neighbours' kids, and we were all playing in the grass. I can't remember. I think we were playing something like war, just pretend guns, shooting each other, pretending and stuff. And I'm looking through this tall grass. I'm parting the grass, and I'm trying to walk through it. And I hear this thud in my head, and I kind of black out. When I come to, fucking my head's gushing. My head's gushing, full of blood. I've ran into something, or I've hit something, and I'm not too sure. I was actually completely oblivious to it. I don't know what the fuck is happening. I remember just screaming, crying, holding my head, and my brother and my sister kind of take me home, which is not far. So I'm walking up the driveway and screaming my head off, and my mom's freaking out, and my dad's freaking out too. And because my dad's freaking out, he's yelling at me, and because I'm bleeding, he's yelling at me, and then he starts giving me a hiding while I'm trying to hold my head, pissing out with blood, because he's panicking and everyone's panicking. And so we jump in the car, say, yeah, I got a hiding for getting hurt. I don't know how that works, but there's that. I got 15 stitches on my head, and 15 internal and 15 external stitches on my head, I remember. And then come to find out 6 years later that my next door neighbour's older brother actually threw a pole at my head, that's what was the cause of me getting that scar on my head, and ultimately getting a hiding for getting hurt. I don't know how that works, but that's how kind of like my father was like. He didn't really understand that kind of aspect of being hurt, and you're hurt, so I'm going to hurt you even more. Oh man, bloody fobs. But yeah, man. Another one comes to mind where I don't know. I was doing something. I think I pissed my father off, and he was fixing a cupboard door. And he's putting the hinges back onto the door, and I'm talking to my dad. I think I pissed him off, and so I come shooting down the driveway, and he's chasing me with the cupboard door over his head, about to whack me. And my brother and his friends just come home from college, and they're like, "The fuck's going on there?" And all they see is my black ass running down the street, and my dad chasing me with a cupboard. And if my brother hears this, he'd probably fucking crack up, because that's one of the staples of what we always talk about, me doing dumb shit when I was young. So yeah, but like I said, my father, I knew he loved us all, but it was a very, very stern upbringing. And like I said, I mean, probably half of these kids these days, if they were brought up like I was, I doubt they'll be doing some of the stupid shit that they do these days with all the drugs and car thefts that are happening in Porirua at the moment. I think if you did have a stern parent in your life, I don't think you'll kind of. It's almost ruling by fear, but it's a necessary fear that needs to happen. That's my personal opinion. I know a lot of people won't agree with it, but I think that, I mean, I didn't have the urge to steal a car or to smoke weed or to go drinking underage, because I knew what would be waiting for me at home if I did. So I think there's good and there's bad to it as such, but that's pretty much most of my Samoan upbringing. Like I said, we didn't really speak Samoan, and the only reason why I know Samoan today is because I went to school and kind of wanted to learn it. Attended Samoa, which is kind of a Samoan language class, so I could learn how to speak it, because I knew I already know how to speak Māori, and Samoan's very similar, and so I picked up Samoan pretty fast. But yeah, it was never one of those things that we grew up with, and I wish it was. I honestly wish it was, because I think language is a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful thing when you can learn your own language and conversate in it to other people. It's a beautiful thing, I personally feel. Yeah. So that's my Samoan upbringing. I could go on and talk about it even more, but I think you get the point of what happened to me and my parents, and my siblings when we were young. And this is the fucked up thing. I mean, I want to share this with you. So my sister got hidings when she was little. My older brother got hidings when he was young. I got hidings when I was young, and it kind of stopped when my little brother, was born, which kind of fucked me off. And I thought it was bullshit because, I mean, I went through it. Well, my sister went through it, my brother went through it, so my sister would laugh because my brother's going through it. Then I went through it, and then my older brother would laugh because I went through it. And I was waiting for that pleasure. And I know it's a fucked up thing to say, man, but you kind of wait for that, yes, it's your turn, finally, you know what I mean? So when my brother was born, I thought, alright, you know, I get to enjoy the comedic side of the stern upbringing. But my father, by then, he was getting a bit old, and he kind of had a real soft spot for my little brother. My little brother being a little sickly, he would have been about 19 kgs at best, soaking wet. There's a real sickly, skinny boy, and he had a condition with his hands, which kind of my parents really favoured him, and a lot of my aunties and my uncles favoured him because he was a real frail kid. And I remember when my dad was about to raise a hand to my little brother, and my little brother kind of got teary-eyed and you know, looked a bit vulnerable. And my dad kind of broke down, and I was sitting there going, what the fuck is this shit, man? You used to beat the fuck out of me. Now you're going all soft, old man. What the fuck, you know? So, I guess it's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing that we went through it, and I think it's I don't know. Yeah, my brother, yeah. They kind of fucked me up a little bit, watching my brother not go for it. But I think it's just my father getting old. And kind of finally getting a conscience, I guess. I think that's it. I'm not too sure. But yeah, my little brother didn't really go for it, so little cunt. Next question. Okay. This was a weird question, but I'll answer it anyway. What group chats are you in? So I'm in a couple of group chats in WhatsApp. Just a couple of the boys. I don't know what relevance this has, but I'm going to answer the question anyway. I'm in a couple of Facebook chats. I'm in a couple of Facebook business chats in terms of my business with Arepa. A few with my energy team. A few with my boys. I belong to so many groups of boys, so I'm in a couple of group chats on Facebook. Yeah, I don't know what that's got to do with anything, but there you go. I guess one thing I did want to talk about though was gaming in terms of CLG. I don't know if you keep up to date with the game industry at the moment, but you see that 100 Thieves has opted out of the CWL for Call of Duty. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately around the gaming industry, and it's a bit of a worry in terms of when you look at the monetary value of how much it costs to actually put a team in through the CWL or any kind of COD Championship tournaments. The money you're talking about to enroll a team is like 50 million, which is crazy, and that's why 100 Thieves has pulled out. And I think it looks like that a lot of groups are going to pull out, which is worrying because it kind of it deads the competition, and in turns it has impact on the minnows in terms of what we do. Our group Arepa, what we do in terms of providing. I know it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but so we're more of a grassroots organised tournaments and whatnot. In terms of the pros, it hurts that avenue because of with money coming into CWL, that's pretty much how Call of Duty make their money, in terms of teams paying a fee to join. They play it out, and then they find who the best team is, and those teams actually look for sponsors to pay this fee. And obviously with the latest news in the media with gun violence at its worst, and gun violence being linked to gaming in general, a lot of the sponsors aren't sponsoring Call of Duty teams anymore, which hurts that avenue, which in turn hurts the competition, and then it kind of implodes from the inside, with teams not wanting to participate in tournaments that are overpriced. And I think it's just because of big corporates wanting to make maximum dollar, and promising teams and rosters ridiculous salary caps that they can't pay. So it's a bit of a worry, but I think to me it kind of opened up the avenue for grassroots competitions to kind of thrive, because it's not grassroots competitions, not really reliant on big name sponsors or big buy-ins. I mean, don't get me wrong, the gaming community at the most at its strongest in terms of grassroots competitions and whatnot, but ultimately it's kind of like when you go to the D League from NBA to NBA itself, your ultimate goal is to be a professional gamer, and if the professional league is under pressure or it's kind of disintegrating, it kind of has an adverse effect on the grassroots. But then where do you go from there? So yeah, it's very interesting. If you guys kind of are interested in that kind of avenue, best thing to look up, 100 Thieves, Nadeshot. When I started NEG or anything in gaming, I kind of tailored it around Nadeshot, because I thought, fuck, the kid is a fucking amazing. Does some big things, and not only in the professional gaming world, but content creation, and then the whole organization of his 100 Thieves org, which they build some amazing merchandise, employ content creators, and have this amazing space to give pros and content creators the space to do what they want to do. I reckon the kid's nothing short of a genius. So yeah, really look up to him. Really look up to Nadeshot. Really look up to Hex, Optic Hex, or Hex now, because obviously Optic is going through a rough patch at the most. So those guys kind of tailor my stuff around them when I walk in the esports avenue. So yeah. One question I did have, which was a bit weird. I had someone ask me about suicide. So I don't feel I am qualified to talk about this, because as far as I know, and as far as I can remember, I've never really been in that space, that vulnerable space, in terms of wanting to take my life. So I guess I can only speak about the examples of what I had in my life in terms of suicide, and what they did to me as a person, and what kind of the eye-opener it gave to me. So the first time I heard about suicide as a kid was, and I probably shouldn't laugh about this, but I'm not too sure, it's an auntie or cousin try to commit suicide, and this is back when I was probably 8, maybe 9. And the story was, and my aunties and my uncles and my parents laugh about it to this day, but it's probably not a subject that you probably want to laugh about, because obviously when someone makes that decision of taking their life, it's kind of a big deal, and shouldn't be laughed about. But back in the days, mental health wasn't really at the forefront of everyone's mind, I think. Yeah, so anyway, back to the story. I'm sidetracking a bit, sorry. So I had an auntie or a cousin, I'm not too sure what she is to me, but she tried to commit suicide, but the rope was too long. So when she climbed the tree, put the noose around her neck and jumped, the noose was too long and she went straight to the ground and broke her toe bone, which I'm trying not to giggle because it is funny in a sense, but again, with the person being in that kind of mental space, you probably shouldn't laugh about it. But that was my first kind of encounter with suicide. I didn't really know what it was. I hadn't really felt that way before. And the second time I kind of encountered suicide was when my cousin took his life. My cousin on my dad's side, so he also hung himself, which was rough. My whole family kind of went up to Auckland to comfort the family and attend the funeral. He left behind 2 beautiful kids, a boy and a girl, and just watching my family grieve and watching the pain was fucking the worst thing in the world. But again, like I said, man, when you're in that headspace, I guess nothing else matters. You don't see the impact that you have on your parents, on your siblings, on your extended family, and on your kids, which is a bit rough. Like I said, I have never been in that space of mind, because I've kind of fortified my headspace in terms of and I say this to myself every day, and it's kind of a reminder, and I hope you can take something from this in terms of perspective. I feel that perspective is the biggest thing when thinking about those sorts. When I say that, I mean perspective in terms of, okay, you might be feeling shitty, might be feeling down at the moment, might be feeling a bit desperate, and the easiest way out is to try and kill yourself, but then trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes in terms of perspective, and seeing people all over the world, especially kids, in Africa, in Mumbai, in Lobe, in poverty places where they probably have that that thought process of wanting to take their own lives, but they don't. They fight on. They fight the good fight. So taking yourself out of your own perspective and looking at it at someone else's perspective of being thankful for what you've got. You've got food in your cupboard. You've got clothes on your back. Some people in the world are not as fortunate as that. So ultimately, I kind of always prep myself and remind myself of that every day, in terms of I'm grateful for what I got. It didn't come overnight, but it did come, and I'm more better off than most people out there in the world, and I always got to be humble and grateful about that. And there is a lot of other kids out there, other people out there that are struggling worse than me. So I don't want to say harden up, because that's kind of like the bro TJ always says, that's kind of the worst thing to do. I mean, harden up and bottling those things, bottling those feelings up is kind of hard to do, but it's what society kind of has spoken in prior years, in terms of that's what you do, you harden up. But kind of always putting things into perspective, especially when you're in that headspace. Just remembering that, man, if you're feeling like shit, imagine what that person in Africa that hasn't eaten for 4 days is feeling like. Put your headspace in the same feeling as a kid in Iraq or Iran, that's living in war-stricken countries. For them it would be too easy to take their lives, but they haven't. So you got to keep on fighting the good fight, as most people say, and don't let it get ahead of you, and talk. I think that's the biggest thing that you can do. Reach out. Don't keep it bottled up inside. I'm sure every person has a good mate that they can confide in. So, man, it does you wonders to talk about things, or even like this dude in this avenue, speaking to a mic and just getting your thoughts out. That's one way of kind of healing yourself, So I don't know, but if anything, I hope that point kind of gets across to you, the perspective side of things, in terms of where you're at in life and where other people are less fortunate than you are at, and kind of just weighing that up. It's like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not good, but it's not that bad, and it could be worse. So always be grateful. Yeah, always be grateful. I think that's the biggest message I wanna portray to you. But yeah, I think that's all from the questions at the moment. I'm just looking at the clock and I'm at 35 minutes. Fuck, I'm doing pretty good at these podcast things, man. You kind of start talking and it just kind of flows fluently. So I hope you enjoyed this one. If you do have any questions or anything that you want me to speak about, please leave a comment or DM me. I'm available on Twitter. All my handles, Margin Live, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. I'm available on all platforms. I have started to upload onto a site called Anchor, which in turn distributes all my podcast feeds to Spotify and a few other sites. So have a look at that. Got some more content coming too. I've got a lot of the boys wanting to jump on this podcast and have a talk about general things. I've got the brother Beyondy that's keen, Beyondy Seal, Rano, and social media content creator from Facebook. He's keen to jump on. I know they're also Beast Mose. We're helping him with this campaign to try and get into the council space. So and I'm very keen to get him on the podcast and have a talk to even both of them at the same time. That'll be awesome. My energy team, my family, Lou, Tote, Bai, Ninja, Teach, all my family, my energy family. I'll probably get those guys on this eventually, no doubt. I know they've voiced interest into this, so yeah. Hope you enjoyed this one, man. I think that's all for me. I'm kind of just rambling at the moment, so I think I better end it. And I hope you enjoyed. Again, episode 3 will be coming out very soon. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And like I said, going back to the message that I wanted to portray, perspective, guys, perspective. That puts everything into perspective in terms of life. And yeah, if you don't take anything from this podcast, I'm wanting you to take that as it may look bad at the moment for you, but put yourself in other people's shoes that are less fortunate than you, and it kind of gives you perspective on how bad it really is. So yeah, man. Alright, this is Margin. Thank you for listening again, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Peace.